Okay, I'm here early this morning before I walk my daughter to school. I want to share this video. Um, I want to share this video because I want people to understand that just because someone happens to be there as a parent in place of a natural parent, um, there's any number of situations that can happen in. And just because there are people that replace parents does not mean that it was always the better placement for children. Does not mean that there was no dysfunction where the children were placed. It does not mean that there was dysfunction where the children were removed from. I know that I sit here and ask myself every time I think about it. I mean, maybe not every day, but every time I think about it, every time things are brought to my attention, that I lost my children because of my choices. And there's not one person that can explain to me what choice I made that led to the loss of my children. And the first answer you might hear is drugs. Never once have I tested positive for drugs, for CPS. Not for my parenting program in California, not for CPS in California, not for CPS in Arizona. Not once have I tested positive. I didn't have any patterns indicating I was addicted to drugs. I didn't have any arrests for drugs. What choices? What choices did I make that led to my children being taken from me? No one will be able to answer that. And if we look back in the files, there is no evidence of any abuse, no evidence of any neglect, no evidence of a substance abuse problem. I don't know what my children have been told throughout the years. I don't know what the circumstances were when my son killed himself. I still don't know any details about that. None. I'm trying my best to answer questions from my children, and some of the things that are said are very hurtful because I know that they're misinformation, but I can't blame my children for what they've been told. They're innocent bystanders in the situation, and I will love them regardless of how upset they get with me, and I will take it in stride because I owe them answers, and that's it. They are the only people I owe answers to, period. And so I'm going to do my best not to allow anything they say to me to hurt me because I have to consider the source. And as much as they hate to hear this, but my mother is toxic. My mother is toxic to me, and I have to, unfortunately, not allow myself any contact with her because and for people who struggle with the same situation, I'm sure you can not validate, but you can confirm and identify with the fact that it's heartbreaking to have to accept that you can't have a relationship with your mother, and to accept that she's actually one of the people that are toxic to you. And I don't say this, again, I don't say this for anyone to go back to my mother and to treat her any differently. I don't say this for anyone to go back to my mother and try to correct her or tell her how bad she is or anything like that. I mean, it's completely pointless for anyone to do any of that, because until someone in that situation recognizes where they need to work on themselves or their behaviors, it's not going to be anything but an attack from the outside, and it's going to be seen as such, and it's going to be defended against, and that's about it. There's not going to be any lessons learned. There's not going to be any constructive criticism accepted. There's not going to be anything but defense. And I myself know that many times when I had to defend myself, I couldn't even think straight enough to see anything I was doing wrong. It was just, I have to protect myself. I have to protect myself. And I think a lot of that is what my mother does. But I don't say any of this for anyone to go criticize her or demean her or put her through anything she doesn't need to go through either. It's just for us to gain an understanding of why, good God, of the things that that are setting me back, or the things that I have to accept in order to continue growing. Needless to say, my children have a lot of the same attitudes, the same beliefs, the same, unfortunately, destructive behaviors or attitudes that my mother has. And but like I said, I don't blame them. I can't blame them. I have to consider the fact, just like with this daughter, my daughter that's with me, she was raised by a man who, in my opinion, has oppositional defiant disorder, and that makes her resemble someone with oppositional defiant disorder because she was raised by someone that has that disorder. In my opinion, has that disorder. He certainly has the behaviors of that disorder. It's not my place to say if he does or not. So I'm not giving a medical diagnosis, and I'm not releasing any of his personal information. This is just the behaviors I observed were oppositional defiant disorder behaviors, and she has a lot of them now, which makes it difficult sometimes to interact with her, especially for people that don't understand that. So I had to come to the understanding that it's 14 years that she's been exposed to this, and it's something that she's been raised doing. So it's going to take 14 years. Well, not the full 14. Maybe it's going to take the same 10 years to reverse that it took to give her those behaviors. Don't come out because I'm alive. And she's getting out of the shower. And it's going to take more than likely just as long as it took to give her these behaviors, to get them under control or to change them to better behaviors. And I have to accept that. So the same goes with all my other children. And they're grown adults now, so it's not necessarily anything that I'm able to force or coerce any of them into. This is only things I can bring to the world, not to the world, but to their attention. And it's difficult because of the sensitivity of our emotional states right now. My son's death was a few years ago, but it's still fresh in all of our minds, and it's obviously still something that's placing a wedge between us. Needless to say, I want everyone to watch this video that I'm going to link. It's pretty much what I wanted to do, was link to this video. Yeah, for people that are in the same position as me, my children were raised by my parents, and they do have a lot of attitudes, and I'm not insulting my children either. I love my children to death, and it's not their fault. Some of their behaviors are negative, and some of their attitudes are negative and destructive, and it's not anything they see as that, because it's just not anything they see as that, because I don't think they've really been exposed to the other side of it, as far as them being the ones receiving that criticism, or them being the ones receiving those attitudes and points of views, like, towards them. It's quite different when you're on the receiving end of some of your own behaviors, and I've been on both. So I think because I have been able to sit down and become more aware of myself, that's what's helped me progress. I'm far from perfect. I'm still far from perfect. I've always been far from perfect, but there was a lot of times I couldn't even attend to my own behaviors because I was so I was constantly in fight or flight mode, and not only does that affect your physical health, but that also affects your mental health in a pretty severe manner. So that being said, I want you to watch this video. I'm going to link it. Hopefully I'm putting it in a card up here right now. Like, share, subscribe. Once again, nobody take anything that I'm saying in my videos in regards to my family. This is not in any way, shape, or form to cause any distress for them. This is not in any way, shape, or form an effort to make them feel bad or to be destructive. It's only to help people understand and bring light and not bring light, bring light to, or bring to the front of the table everybody's perspective. Like, it's not fair just to have the one perspective, have stories one-sided. You have to have all perspectives and all angles, and that's important to be fair to every person involved. So Everybody have a good day. Watch this video that I've linked to above. And thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.